Buenos dias, Puebla. And in my language, Assalamu alaikum. It's such a beautiful city you have here. And maybe I'm bringing a beautiful person also in my life. This is my son, Abdullah. I'd like to take you 2 years ago, in 2011. It was also fall, November. And it was the bedtime of my son, Abdullah. I call him Aboudi, who just turned 8 last week. We finished the bedtime rituals. He was still in his bathrobe, a blue one. And he looked up to me and he asked me a question. Mommy, are we bad people? I was really shocked. Why do you say such thing, Aboudi? Earlier that day, I noticed he had some bruises on his face when he came back from school. He wouldn't tell me what happened. He was ready to tell. 2 boys hit me today in school. They told me, we saw your mom on Facebook. You and your mom should be in jail. You see, I'm a proud Saudi woman. I've been always proud of my achievements. I've never been afraid to tell my son anything. But that moment with his questioning eyes, the only thing I had to say to him is just kneel to him and look him straight in the eyes and tell him, Aboudi and mommy are not bad people. So why this moment of truth that I had to face with my son that moment, 2 years ago? You see, I'm a woman who was put in jail for driving a car in a country where women are not allowed to drive. My brother, just for giving me his car keys to drive his car, he was detained, he was harassed so much, and he had to quit his job as a geologist. And he had to leave the country with his wife and 2-year-old son the same year. My own father was sitting in a Friday sermon, which is a lecture that is given by Imam for Muslims once a week, with tens of worshippers. Some of them were his own family and friends. And the Imam was condemning women drivers and calling them prostitutes. For me, that moment of truth that happened, it wasn't about me, and it wasn't about taking the wheel and driving for a few miles. And it wasn't about those kids wanting to be rude with my son. It was all about a woman or someone who challenged the unwritten laws of a society. So, what happened? Why I had to go through this painful moment with my own son? Let me go back a few months before this incident that happened. I was complaining. I work in an oil company. I resigned last year. And I was complaining to a male colleague about the harassment I had to face trying to find a ride back home. Although I have a car and I have a driver's license. And as long as I know, women in my country have been always complaining about women cannot drive. We are the last country on earth where women can drive. But it was 20 years since anyone tried to do anything about it, a whole generation ago. He broke the bad good news in my face. But there is no law banning you from driving. I was really shocked because I looked it up, and it's true. There was no law banning us from driving. It was customs in an ultra-conservative society enshrined in fatwas, religious fatwas, that made women can't drive. And it's enforced by the authorities. So we just came up with the idea, how about we call a day for women to drive? Anyone with a driver license will say June 17, they go out and drive to defy that ban on women driving. We started using social media to encourage women to go out on that day and drive. One woman in Jeddah, it's a city on the western province of Saudi Arabia, she drove her car. She announced about it. And people didn't believe that she did drive a car. What happened, I asked a friend to record a video of me driving, and I posted it on YouTube. For my surprise, that YouTube video was trending around the world in that day. It got like 700,000 views in the first day when I posted it on YouTube. I started receiving a lot of threats, a lot of people saying, you will be sent to jail, you broke a law. But we keep saying there are no law. The authorities in Saudi Arabia remained very silent. That really creeped us out. We wanted to know what will they do if they find women driving in the street on June 17. So I asked my brother, again, to give me his car keys and go with me and drive. It went fast. We were both arrested. He was detained, and I was sent to jail. At this time, the whole country went into frenzy. It was crazy. There are people who started Facebook pages and hashtags called Free Manal, changing even their profile pictures to Manal Sharif, my profile picture. And there are people who were calling me horrible things. Even the Friday sermons in the country were condemning my act, calling me evildoer, traitor, even conspirator, and Western agent. When I was in jail, I kept my abaya. It's a black cloth that we put on our clothes when we leave the house. My fellow prisoners kept asking me to remove it, but I was so sure of my innocence, and I said, I'm leaving today. After 9 days, I was released from jail. June 17 came. The streets were packed with SUV cars filled with religious police, traffic police. I think all the authorities came outside that day to enforce the law, or the unwritten law, that women shouldn't drive. Some 100 brave women drove that day, and none were arrested. We broke the taboo. So, thank you. So I think by now, everyone around the world, when they ask me where I'm from, I say I'm Saudi Arabia, and they say, aren't you the one from the country where women don't drive? I think everyone here knows that we don't drive in Saudi Arabia. Few knows why. But before that, let me give you some numbers about my country. I'll give you 3 numbers about my country to give you just an introduction about Saudi Arabia. 1, 2, 3. 1, we're #1 oil producer in the whole world. Oil, you use it to drive your cars, although we don't drive as women. We're #1 in the whole world, percentage of the population of YouTube views. We're #1 in the Arab region. We are on Twitter, whether tweeting or whether active Twitter users. 2, we're #2 population in the whole world after the UAE that we use smartphones. And smartphone, you use it usually to access the internet. If you look even at US and Japan is like 25% of the population adoption of smartphones. Saudi Arabia is 73. We're competing maybe with only Singapore, 73. 3, we're the 3rd worst country when it comes to income equality between men and women. And this is according to the World Economy Forum. It's a recent report. Saudi women, only 18% in the workforce age are in the workforce. 18%. That makes 82% of us unemployed, highly educated, more educated than men, but unemployed just because you're a woman. So we go back to the question, why we can't drive? Well, actually, there is a very interesting study that was presented to the Consultative Council in Saudi Arabia. And this study claims to be based on a UNESCO report that says, percentage of prostitution, drug abuse, illegal children, divorce, adultery, in societies where women drive is higher than societies that women don't drive. I swear to God, it exists. This guy, he represented it to the Consultative Council. Thinking, what are the 2 societies in the whole world where women drive and women don't drive? Us and the rest of the world. What we did, we started a hashtag mocking that study. And the hashtag made the news around the world. That moment, we realized how powerful it is to mock your oppressor. Nothing is more powerful than that. It strips it away of strongest weapon, fear. So that study wasn't the end of it. That study is just part of a whole social system in Saudi Arabia. Me, as a woman, I'll be minor and in need of written or verbal permission from a male guardian all my life, until the day I die. Unless I commit a crime, then they treat me as an adult. It's part of that huge, big system that says women need men protection, and this is why you're not driving. Do you think this is the only reason? Let me give you other reasons or other excuses they use. Actually, I made a list here for you. In Saudi Arabia, gathering of 4 people in a public place to do civil rights movement or anything is not allowed. We don't even have civil society. So what do? We use social media to gather. We have thousands and thousands of people who are like-minded. We're meeting there on Twitter and Facebook. So this one. Demonstrations are illegal in my country. So what did we say? We said women who they will do individual act of defiance. Individually, you drive your car, you drop your kids in the school, or you go to your work, or even go to grocery. Another excuse, they said, society is not ready. But some women were driving, and they were passing by cars, like this one, and there are families in the other car, and they were giving her the thumb up. We're showing the authorities society is ready. So, another one. I'll clean that later, don't worry. Oh, my favorite is, Saudi woman is a queen. Have you ever seen a queen drive? Queen Elizabeth herself. So, driving is not decent for women. We brought some pictures from the south and the rural area in Saudi Arabia where women can ride donkeys. So, okay, they came up with a fatwa recently, last year, and it was a very funny fatwa. They said women can ride bicycles, but only with her male guardian. We said, okay, we found a solution. So, talking about these excuses to stop us from driving, we didn't know that when we use the social media very effectively, we created huge viral impact around the world. The way that we started receiving support from around the world, I can keep going and telling you about the support that we received. My husband is Brazilian. When I went to Brazil to meet his family, the first thing they knew, they said, we heard about you in the news. Brazil, I didn't know. I'll just give 2 examples. It was very interesting movement or support that happened, one in Italy. Iguedo con Manal. I don't speak Italian, but it means I drive with Manal. And women in Italy were taking pictures with anything, a bicycle, to show support to us. This is women in Ukraine. I just loved what they did. They went topless with niqab in front of the embassy in Ukraine, and last month in front of the embassy, Saudi embassy in Berlin. Cars for women, camels for men. Sometimes you watch a movie. Anyone seen the movie The Dictator? It's a silly movie, but it's a very funny movie. And I was watching the movie, and this scene comes up.
I will give you that one. I do look ridiculous.
Yes! Listen, if you won't come down from there for yourself, do it for your country. If this constitution is signed, there will be free press, women drivers, civil rights.
What are civil rights?
I'll tell you later. They're hilarious.
Isn't that amazing? It's unbelievable amazing when I was watching this. So people always come to me and ask me, why driving in Saudi Arabia while you have the male guardianship system where you don't have a personal status law in the country? For me, driving, I was trying to answer it in the right way to you today, but yesterday as we were flying here, we stopped in Atlanta as a transit, and Atlanta is the place where they buried Martin Luther King. When we walked in the airport, they had a wall in honoring of Martin Luther King. And they had signs at the time of segregation, in the southern states of America. And I took a picture of one of these signs that was showing yesterday. Can you read it? Very interesting. Discrimination has no borders. Discrimination could happen with race, with color, with nationality, or even a sect or a gender. The first three, they were taken in the last century in America when the civil rights movement started. This one is taken in my country today. For me, segregation is what Martin Luther King Jr. said once. He said, injustice anywhere threatens justice everywhere. And this is what I look at it. Segregation anywhere threatens the human race. This is why it's amazing now, with the internet and the social media, people like you here in Mexico, in Puebla, can hear about people like us coming from the desert, coming from the other side of the world. Why driving? Anyone recognize this lady? This black woman is the reason why there is a black man today in the White House. Her name is Rosa Parks. Just because she did not give up her seat in the bus for a white man. Very simple act of defiance. People would even overlook it. Because of that simple incident, the civil rights movement sparked in the southern states of the United States. Because of that simple act, the whole future of the black race in America changed. Let me show you my Rosa Parks. She's a Saudi lady. Her name is Madiha Al-Ajrouj. She drove November 6, 1990, in the first time where women defied the ban on driving. She lost her job. She was banned from leaving the country for 2 years. In 2011, when we announced about June 17, she drove again and she lost her job. 26 October, which is a new movement, she drove for the third time. And she said, I will not stop driving. For us, a woman behind the driving seat is not there for driving. A woman behind the driving seat because she wants to be in the driver's seat of her own destiny. 26, so for us, driving is the key of change in Saudi Arabia. October 26 was last week. I went to Saudi and I told my husband, I might not come back. But I came back and I'm here today. I'm thankful. In October 26, do you think they came up with new excuses? Actually, I wrote them here. But they were very creative. When women called for driving on October 26, 2013, this year, it received huge support. 15,000 people signed the petition in the first week. But they're really creative. The first one was, why not we not supposed to drive? Cleric says female drivers risk damaging ovaries. I have a son. Sometimes, you just want to turn them into, anyway. The other very interesting excuse or accusation said, October 26th, isn't that Hillary Clinton's birthday? We didn't even care when she was in the office. Would we care when she's not? So, you see, people don't run out of excuses, but very interesting thing happened. Something we were waiting for 3 years. Women, on October 25, one day before October 26, all the news, the local news in Saudi Arabia, for the first time, after silence of 3 years, came up the headlines saying, Minister of Interior confirms again, women driving is banned, whether individually or in groups. Women looked at it very negatively. I looked at it very positively. Why? For the first time, they do recognize that we exist. For the first time, they're afraid of women drivers. What do you think happened that day? Women freaked out, panicked, didn't drive? I don't think so. We broke another thing, the wall of fear. And just to be smart, the next movement will be November 31st. I don't think they will find anyone born on November 31st. We picked an imaginary date just to say that dates don't matter we make them matter. This picture was taken 2 days ago in Saudi Arabia. Women been always asking when we'll be allowed to drive. And I always tell them, stop asking that question and take action now. Stop waiting for things to happen. You can go and make them happen. This woman, she drove, she was pulled over by the police, but she drove. That means that wall of fear is gone forever. So today, I'll tell the ladies of Saudi Arabia, it's time to drive your own life. It's time to buckle up and go. Thank you, everyone. Muchas gracias.